Hey, there he is.
All right, testing.
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm using my my nice Blue Yeti microphone, so I want to make sure I got that working
Nice.
there. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I must be something with Chrome. I just accepted all three of those chats, and then it just spins, and I tried Firefox, and it worked right away. So
that's funny. You'd think that it would be the other way around with Chrome being made by Google, but
yeah, I know.
Whatever works, I guess. So as far as what I was planning for today is pretty much just one of the main things we would be doing is kind of just giving like some general impressions of the Switch and talking maybe talking about rumors and stuff. Just some general things first, and then I'll split it up so that we'll have a second part where we're basically talking about what we actually hope to see at the January 12th event. What kind of things we might expect to see.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So, I mean, I've already done several videos on the Switch as it is, but I figured that it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for us to actually talk more about it now that there's a lot more information out, or at least as far as rumor and speculation goes.
Right, and then we can compare it afterward to see if what we thought was true, if the rumors were true, or if what we were hoping for was true. So
exactly, and I figured we would record it this way. Let's still do Audacity just for backup. I mean, I don't think it'll be as much of an issue, mostly because I'm not relying on Wi-Fi this time. I actually have a wired connection.
Okay,
and it's a lot faster now. So I think that we won't have any problems, but it wouldn't hurt to do that just in case. And then later I'll upload videos and I'll actually, put like gameplay footage to it and everything, just because that's more interesting than just watching our logos back and forth.
Right. No problem. Yep. I have Audacity open now, so I can start that whenever we're ready to start for real. No problem.
Okay. So get ready to start in 3, 2, 1. Hailing from the great cold state of Alaska, I am the Frozen Gamer, and joining me today is a good friend of mine, a man who, if you take... I completely botched the intro. Let's start that.
Try that again. Okay. I've done that many a time.
All right. Let's try this again.
Okay.
All right, in 3, 2, 1. Hailing from the great cold state of Alaska, I am the Frozen Gamer, and joining me today is a man, if you say his name backwards minus the first B, loses his superpower, Mr. Ben Stegner of MakeUseOf.
That's me, and it's great to be back behind the mic, I have to say. If you've been listening to Nathan or I for a while, you probably know that we did a show together for a while and ended that about a year and a half ago, I want to say. So it's great to be back and talking about Nintendo as it should be. So happy to be here, and please let me keep my superpowers for the time being, if you would.
Well, we got to do what we got to do.
Right, I can't be too powerful.
Exactly. Don't want you to overthrow me or anything.
Right. Even ground is important.
Yeah. So today, our plan is to talk a lot about just some general impressions of the Nintendo Switch. I've already put out a number of videos regarding the system, but this is just an opportunity, especially as the January 12th event is coming up in just 5 days, as today is the 7th, whether or not these videos will actually be up at that point. So we're going to talk some general impressions, what it is that we think about the system and everything we've heard about it, even if most of it is rumor. And then also on part 2, we will get into what it is that we actually are hoping to see at the event and what we actually expect to see, regardless of whether or not those two match up. So since everybody who's been checking out my videos has already heard what I have to say for the most part, Ben, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so just general thoughts on the Switch, I would say. I was really interested to see what was going to happen to begin with over at MakeUseOf. I've written a couple of articles just on Nintendo's antics over the past year or so. I wrote a general impression piece on just whether Nintendo going mobile was a good thing or a bad thing, which is a separate subject. But it's been really interesting to kind of watch, I guess, kind of the way they've reacted to the complaints people have had with them this generation with, they need to embrace mobile gaming because it should be about their characters on other systems and things like that. And the My Nintendo Rewards thing and the new Nintendo accounts hopefully being some way to kind of counter the online and issues that people had. So I think all of that going into the Switch has had me excited. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I mean, right before that little teaser video was unveiled, it was kind of known that it was going to be a hybrid portable and a home console. But I have to say, overall, I'm really excited, and I'm really excited because I totally missed out on the Wii U's launch and all of the stuff that came with that because I wasn't playing as many games right around when that came out. It was when I was a senior in high school going into college, that area. I just didn't have as much time to play games. So I feel like I kind of missed out on the excitement of having a new Nintendo console because, we had the GameCube and the Wii right when they came out. I had a DS at launch. So I'm really excited to be back onto it and just be able to get one at launch as I'm planning to, unless it's an outrageous price, which we'll talk about in a bit here. I think it's a great time to be a fan. I think it's a good chance for Nintendo to, I don't know, either kind of continue going their own way and say forget it to the powerhouse other two systems, or hopefully get a little bit back in the public eye, which either way I'd be totally fine with.
Absolutely. So what did you think of the actual reveal of the Switch? And like I said, I've talked pretty much at length of what all I thought of that, but I definitely want to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so that video, I liked it. I thought it was a little bit strange at times. I like the emphasis on just kind of like playing together with it. I'm not really sure how realistic it would be to carry it to like a rooftop party and that kind of thing. I mean, I don't have many friends that I play like a local multiplayer with, so that kind of struck me as funny. I don't know if Splatoon will become an esport like League of Legends or something like that, but overall, I mean, I think that it was a good teaser. I think overall, we saw that one tiny little shot of a potential new Mario game and Skyrim running on it, things like that. So whether that actually comes to pass, I know there's been some rumors or negative rumors about that wasn't really Skyrim running, that was just like a tech demo or whatever, that kind of thing. But I think it served its purpose in making me interested and seeing the actual hardware, but I think that I'm definitely looking forward to the 12th, as we both are, I'm sure, because I kind of want to know more, and that little teaser doesn't give you a whole lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember when I watched it. I watched it, first thing when it went up. Although, of course, Nintendo's site wasn't working at all, so I was just like freaking out. It's like, come on, I want to see this video. And I ended up, I think, just going through like Nintendo Life or something. They had a link to the video, and so I watched it that way. But I was so happy when I saw it, because I remember that, there had been a lot of speculation, obviously that it was a hybrid, but then there was also some naysayers who were going and saying, oh no, it's going to be a super powerful console and that it's going to be AMD based and everything else. And there's one YouTuber in particular who I'm going to call out, but I want to keep in mind that my opinion of this guy has changed quite a bit since the Switch info came out. Super Metal Dave 64, he is one of those guys who was very much saying, oh, it's definitely going to be a super powerful console, that there's no way Nintendo's going to make a hybrid, that all of these rumors from Emily Rogers and Eurogamer are just completely false, and made a number of videos, the final nail in the coffin of why it wasn't, but really just kind of cherry-picked arguments. And so leading up to that event, I was just like, okay, whether Nintendo decides to do a family of systems and do two separate systems, or if they just decide if they're actually going to do the hybrid thing, no matter what, I'm going to buy it. But I really, really wanted it to be a hybrid, both because the fact that I feel like that's just a much better concept, but also because the fact that I just wanted a Super Metal Dave, among others, to eat their words, basically. And I mean, like I said, this guy actually, since everything happened, he's definitely turned a corner and, realized, he admitted that he was wrong and he apologized to people for being kind of a jerk about it, because he was. But I definitely have appreciated his content since then, and I've been a subscriber for a while, so it's definitely been nice to see that. But it was just funny to me because, as I was watching this reveal trailer, I was just in shock and awe because of all these great things, both because it was really what I wanted, but also because it was proving these naysayers wrong. And then, of course, when NVIDIA came out and said that they were the ones making the chip for it and everything. That really took the cake for me. I couldn't help but laugh because of how much, Super Metal Dave and another guy, Player Essence, who are, two ones which I follow significantly now, and like I said, they've turned things around for their channels. But how much they were like, oh, it's definitely not Nvidia, it's going to be AMD, it's going to be AMD, it's going to be a powerful console and all this. But it just made me laugh. But anyway, point is that I really am excited about that reveal of the Switch. I thought that was fantastic. And I mean, yeah, there are definitely aspects of it that are a little unrealistic, as you pointed out, but I still think overall it did a really good job communicating what the Switch is and what it does, at least the basic aspects of it.
Yeah.
And there's supposed to be like some things that we really don't know about it yet. Like, I guess Nintendo has more surprises in store that we're just not aware of, and hopefully those are not surprises that have already been spoiled.
Yeah, I to go back on that point you had, I didn't really particularly see any YouTubers or anyone that really talked about it like negative or positive, but one of the things I wanted to mention is just the overall positive response that I saw to the video. I just rewrote an article recently about disliked YouTube videos, and I thought about how people, dislike videos as kind of a sign that they are sick of something or whatever. One of the ones that I was on the list was the Call of Duty Infinite Warfare trailer. It was just, I wrote about how that showed, people don't like this, and they clearly showed it with their downvotes. I was happy to see that the majority of the votes on YouTube were positive, and it seemed like people were excited for it and not just saying, this is stupid, or just writing it off when it's been in the wild for 15 seconds. Not that, obviously YouTube can be a pretty toxic community, especially with anonymous comments, but I was happy to see that it was, at least people were happy to see a new item from Nintendo in the mix.
Yeah, and I mean, like I feel like in general, even the people who were against the idea of a hybrid initially, both before the reveal and even right after, have really turned around because they've kind of just realized more and more how great this could actually be for Nintendo fans. I mean, what it could do. And one of the things that I love about the stuff that's actually come out from Nintendo is, their lists of third parties. Now, I mean, I was one of the people who initially thought, okay, well, the Wii U had a lot of third parties before it launched too, and look where it is now. But I actually looked at the infographic showing both what they announced at E3 2011 when they first showed off the Wii U for the third-party support, which was a total of 21 companies. And that wasn't just a sampling, that was the full amount that they had as far as support goes at that time. And the sampling list that they have right now for the Switch is 52.
I haven't heard those numbers. I saw that infographic about the third-party developers that they had for the Switch, but I didn't realize that it was a sampling, and that's a lot.
Yeah, that's what it shows on the infographic. So, like, someone had uploaded an image from the E3 2011 press conference when they were showing that list of all the third-party support that Wii U was going to have, and I counted it up and came up with 21, and then counted up the list that they have for the Switch, which they says on top, this is a sampling of the third parties, obviously just getting all the big ones out of the way. And it says, and there's a total of 52 on there.
Okay. Yeah. And that really, with the third parties, we don't have to stay on this. It's just a thought that popped into my head.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like to me, and this is kind of a big picture deal, a lot of the third parties, I feel like with the Wii U, like early on in the Wii U's lifetime, right? We saw games like Zombie U from Ubisoft. That was I think I tried it. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I'm not a huge fan of like permadeath type of those games, but I think it was a great idea, and it made really good use of the Wii U's gamepad. And when it was ported to PS4 and I think Xbox One, a lot of people commented saying that it was better on Wii U because it was built for that. I think of that as a perfect example of third-party games on Wii U. But then I think as time went on, it kind of became like Assassin's Creed 3 or Batman Arkham City, and it was just kind of like oh yeah, we should probably put this on the Wii U and throw them a bone with some kind of special feature, that kind of thing. And it just felt like it wasn't like publishers were building games for the system, which was obviously was a shame. We know that the third party support's been atrocious, but hopefully, I mean, I'm confident and I'm optimistic that they'll start strong and stay strong. But that definitely was something that was good at first on the Wii U, even if the games weren't amazing, but kind of dropped off, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things is like with Batman Arkham City as an example. I mean, even though that was a port, wasn't built from the ground up for the Wii U, I thought that it was actually one of the few games that did use the gamepad really, really well. Of course, when Arkham Origins came out, then it was a different story because that one was really bare bones in terms of features, and it was obvious that they just kind of tacked on some things at the end instead of actually building in some features that legitimately use the gamepad well. But I mean, as far as the third-party support in general, there was just so many examples of developers who, like early on, they try to do something with the gamepad, something that actually used it and was cool. But then quickly it just fell off. And of course, it didn't help that the Wii U had such a poor launch lineup to begin with, because having so few great games, apart from games that had already been out for a year or something,
right,
just made it really difficult for people to actually be interested in it. And then developers started to see, okay, well, these games are just not really going to sell very well, so we'll kind of just get it out and not really put much effort into it.
Yeah, I think that this is something we can talk about later in our hopes section. But I think that the launch games, we've talked about them before on the podcast, just systems that had terrible launch titles or mediocre. But I feel like, I mean, I can't, when you think of the Wii U, I can't really think of a game that came out. I don't think there were any phenomenal launch titles. Like, I think even like New Super Mario Brothers U was maybe 6 months or something after. But it's interesting because like even like I think the Xbox One and the PS4, I don't think that their launch titles were anything special either. I mean, they had like Killzone and Knack, but those games were not really like, whoa, this is the new generation of consoles, But I think that a lot of people wait for a price drop or whatever, which took the Wii U a long time. And I mean, even still, I see now Wii U's, I mean, you can get a refurbished one for like $200, but it's not like there's been a significant price drop that brings a lot of people in. So I think that having that strong launch lineup, which we can elaborate on later, will definitely be key in bringing people in right away.
Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely the case. I would agree that especially PS4 and Xbox One really didn't have strong launch lineups, but the main thing that they had going for them is that it was clearly communicated that these were new systems. And of course, because of the fact that they had, because they did a lot better job communicating, what the systems were and that they were a new generation and everything, people were interested, where with the Wii U, there were too many people who didn't understand what it was. And I mean, I understood because I'm a big Nintendo fan, and, I saw the original, E3 presentation in 2011 and was excited about it. And then I loved it when I bought it, which was shortly after launch. But I definitely see how it is that the Wii U was a massive failure when it came to marketing, and the launch lineup was weak. I mean, apart from some great third-party games that were already out on other systems, some of which had been out for a good year, there really just wasn't anything that great. I mean, Nintendo Land, I was actually pretty impressed with overall. I mean, I think that some of the mini games are actually really deep, but it's still a collection of mini games, and that only goes so far.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, with Wii Sports, I always felt like it was a great, like, hey, have the family over and show them the Wii. It's really cool, but wasn't a lot of depth. I thought Wii Sports Resort was way better for that. But I agree with you on Nintendo Land. When I got my Wii U last October of 2015 or 2015, yeah. I thought Nintendo Land was great right away. I loved the stamps that had a little bit of depth to them, and how the games weren't just play them twice and then you're sick of them. But I mean, I still feel like, even myself, I mean, I just got a Wii U like I said, in 2015. So after we had ended the podcast, so I never really got a chance to talk about it much. But I mean, I don't regret buying it at all. Obviously, as a Nintendo fan, I like it, and it's let me play Twilight Princess the definitive way, in my opinion, and it introduced me to Bayonetta. Tropical Freeze is fantastic. So I definitely think that if anyone's listening and you don't have a Wii U yet, I don't know if this would be the best time to get it because the Switch is nigh, but the Wii U is definitely, you're not going to get a lot of new games coming out for it, obviously, and even 2016 was pretty lousy in terms of new titles for the most part, but there's still there's the games that are there that are good are must plays. There's just not a whole lot of breadth to it.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say at this point, really, there isn't a reason to get the Wii U, especially if any of the rumors are true about all the ports that are coming, because it kind of sounds like there could very well be ports of all of the best games from Wii U.
Right.
In which case, then it's completely pointless because
Right.
you can get better versions of existing games that are also portable. I mean, there's, it's a win-win situation buying it for the Switch, and you get more powerful hardware on top of that. So,
right, and you don't have to worry about the console going out the window in terms of online service or whatever. Exactly. So perhaps I spoke too hastily, but I mean, you get the idea what I meant.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, like 2 years ago, I definitely would have recommended a Wii U to anyone, mostly because, we didn't even. I mean, all we knew 2 years ago was that the Switch was coming. I mean, that Nintendo was working on it. We didn't know what exactly it was. We didn't know anything about the concept behind it. All we really knew was that there was this thing called Codename NX that they were developing, and that it was going to be a successor in some form, even though they said that it wasn't a simple successor to the Wii U or a 3DS. And of course, they've obviously changed their tune on that. But yeah, so definitely now I would say there's really not much reason to buy a Wii U unless the Switch ends up being really expensive. And even then, I'd still say go for the Switch first.
Yeah, future-proof it. Because it's not like what we've seen with even like the PS3 and Xbox 360, where they continue to get games for years and years. I doubt that'll happen with the Wii U. I mean, it's already kind of starting to slow down, as we've seen. So you are right.
All right, so I think we've done a pretty thorough covering of what it is that we think in general about the reveal and about the Switch. But I guess, well, we there's still a little bit of room to discuss some things. One of the things I definitely want to ask you is the concept of the system itself. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. So this is a good segue here. Yeah, I would say for myself, I'm. This sounds kind of stupid. Like I'm more of a home console person, I guess. That sounds really dumb. Aside from when I worked in the city last year when I was an intern, I don't really play too many mobile games on the go. And by mobile games, I mean like 3DS and PS Vita. I don't mean like phone games. So like I rode the bus, so that was time for me. I played a lot of 3DS games that summer. I played Donkey Kong Country Returns and Shantae, the original, and stuff like that. So for me, I'm happy to see and hoping to get this more confirmed in the coming weeks here that I love the portability idea. I'm just happy to see that it won't compromise the home experience. I like the ideas of the different controllers. I mean, we can talk about the battery life, but like having the two controllers in your hand versus the controllers like docked onto the side of the system, if you will, when you're on the go. I think that's really cool. But the concept overall, I have to say, I don't think that I will use too much of the portability. Even when we used to talk on the podcast, like off TV play on the Wii U was never really a huge deal for me because when I'm playing a home system, I'm normally at my TV, but I think it's a great tool for people that would use it. So I would say overall for me, I think it's a really neat idea. It hasn't been done before, which is the kind of stuff I love to see from Nintendo. I mean, people always point to the GameCube as kind of the system that tried to compete with the other two and didn't really stand out. So it's great to see Nintendo still doing their innovation that they do so well. So I think it's a great idea. I'm just happy to see that for me, the home feature of it won't be compromised for the portability, but who knows, maybe it'll turn me into more of a portable player. But when I'm away, I'm not usually in a situation where I can sit down and play a game. That's why.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for me, the Wii U was one of the things I loved about the Wii U was just the fact that I could technically play the games just about anywhere. I mean, granted, there would be limits to some degree, but anything with off TV play basically gave me the option to take it with me and play. I mean, I played Wii U in the car, driving back from Anchorage. Obviously, I wasn't driving at the time. Or when my job had a lot more free time, then my boss was cool with me bringing video games with me, and I'd sometimes do off TV play that way. But even still, as cool as it was, the Switch is a huge step up because, I mean, for one, the whole thing is portable. You don't have to deal with plugging in an additional console or anything. Having all the hardware in the tablet, and of course the screen is going to be a heck of a lot better than the Wii U was.
Sure.
And just the fact that you can play the full game and you don't have to lug around a console in addition to the handheld portion of it. I really, really like that. Now, I will say that I definitely will not have the option to do as much portable gaming, but I just like the fact that there is the option at all. I mean, there are also times where, like, with games that didn't require me to pay as much attention to the audio, that like we'd have something playing on the TV, like a funny show that's more based on the dialogue than what's actually on screen, and I could play a game while listening to a TV show in the background. And
Sure,
I still
yeah.
do that from time to time with other games, or listen to an audiobook or something else. And, if I have something playing on the TV, I can play on the Switch screen on the tablet itself, and then, listen to whatever else in the background, which is something I enjoy.
Right, less fumbling around with TV inputs and stuff. And something minor too about the Wii U gamepad. I don't think this will fit anywhere else. I'm excited about. I guess this isn't really even confirmed or anything, but if it's a touch screen, which I would be okay if it wasn't. But if it's a touch screen, I am happy that it will finally be like a smartphone touch screen. Ever since I've had the DS, I've always hated feeling like I have to use a stylus, especially in early games that had so much touch, like WarioWare touch and games like that. I always wanted to use my finger because it just feels natural, especially from the smartphone era. So I guess I'm kind of assuming if it is a touch screen, and we don't know if it is yet. But if it is, I'm happy that it'll be up to current standards. And I definitely agree with you on the resolution. It's a huge step down when you're playing on the TV, and then it's like, whoa, what happened on the gamepad?
Yeah, and I mean, most of the time it wasn't too big of an issue, just because of the fact that you have a 480p screen and playing a 720p game. I mean, it might be a little bit more on the blurry side, at least with some games, but for the most part, it still looked pretty good on the gamepad screen. It's just that it's a significant difference going from a 480p screen to a 720p screen, which, I mean, they haven't confirmed anything, but it seems pretty likely that 720p is what the screen's going to be.
Right.
And that'll be just fine for a 6-inch screen, if the rumors are correct that it's about that size, which, and from what we've seen, like on Jimmy Fallon and that sort of thing, 6 inches sounds about right.
Yeah, that resolution should be a lot clearer. I mean, it's not. I think once you get past a certain point, it's a bit overkill. But, and I agree, it wasn't like you were looking at a, blurry JPEG or something. But
yeah, definitely. I'd say that the touchscreen is. I mean, I just think it's extremely unlikely that it wouldn't have a touchscreen at this point. I can't see them leaving that out because that would just be. I mean, it's such an obvious thing to do, and especially with it being, developed in part by NVIDIA, that I just can't see them leaving that out. I mean, they've had a touchscreen on, well, basically every Nintendo system since the DS, with the exception of the Wii.
right.
And, now, of course, it's much more likely that's going to be capacitive as opposed to resistive touch, which is very important, I think, with it being 2017, and there's just no reason to not have it.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely. This is kind of just a general thing that like releasing, not really future proofing, but the whole thing with releasing the best and newest hardware you can. Like we just talked about with the gamepad. Even when they released it in 2013, 480p wasn't phenomenal, and now it's like you really notice it, that type of thing. I think that about the PlayStation VR, which is a whole other concept. I've said this before, that having it rely on those PS3 Move controllers, I think, was a pretty bad idea, because those controllers are really old, and they weren't great to begin with when they came out, and now we have a brand new accessory relying on them. So that kind of thing. So even if it's good for today's standards, like a 720p screen, I think will be fine. If the system's around for a couple of years, as it will be, I'm sure, it should still be fine by then.
Yeah, and even then, 720p screen, games are still going to look great on that. And, because since I think it's a small enough screen, that 720p will be more than sufficient. And on top of that, it'll also save on battery life for sure.
Right. Speaking of the touch screen, we don't have to go super into this, but I'm curious, like just generally, I'm trying to think in terms of touch. If we've looked at, they haven't said anything, but it seems to me like they're trying to go back to their roots or that kind of thing, more with like traditional Nintendo games that aren't built around motion control or the gamepad, that kind of thing. So if it has a touch screen, if we assume, what do you think would be like, I don't want to say uses of it, but like, so if we have like the 3D Mario game that they barely teased in that teaser, and there's controller controls for it. I'm trying to think of like, would it be kind of like the PS4's touchpad, where it can be used to like zoom the map in and stuff? Or, I think an easy use of it would be like on the system software's main menu, tapping stuff or browsing the eShop or whatever. That would all make sense. But do you think we'd see it have a big part in game controls, or kind of be like an accessory to it like it is on PS4?
I would say it's definitely going to be an accessory at best. Mostly because the fact that you won't be able to use the touchscreen when it's docked. And so there's just really absolutely no reason to have it really included in games unless it's just an optional thing. Like I could definitely see it being useful. Like they could technically use it for inventory management and that sort of thing in Breath of the Wild if, a person wanted to do that. But I'm guessing that most likely, even if they do, it's not going to be something where it's mandatory. It's going to be completely optional. And besides that, I think that it'll definitely be used for if you're playing on the tablet itself, used for UI and that sort of thing. Looking at them, selecting apps, navigating the eShop, that sort of thing. And of course, it'll be a whole lot smoother than the gamepad.
Right. You're right. I didn't even think about that. The fact that it would be docked, that was an oversight. But yeah, I think that that makes sense. I had a thought and I lost it there with the navigation. Like I think I remember a perfect example, I think, is like in Pokemon Battle, and it holds true on DS. Like if you want to use the stylus to click, fight and click what move you want to use, perfect. If not, you just use the buttons and there's no difference at all. So a lot of games do that. That's not anything unique, but that would be a good use. Okay, stupid question. Sorry.
No. One thing that I was thinking about is, there's also the possibility that it could support Android-based smartphone games. That it would be, or Android-based apps in general, and so then that could be another reason to have that touch screen.
Right, to take it further.
Plus, then of course, web browsing and Netflix and whatever YouTube. Else. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to use it, but it would be an option.
Yeah, that's definitely good. It's always better to include it. It's a tablet, so it's not like it's going to be like an extra cost to everybody.
Exactly. So one other thing that I wanted to talk about before we go off into part 2 and start talking about the upcoming event is the USB-C. It's basically been confirmed. Nintendo hasn't actually come out and said it, but with CES recently happening, they showed off one of the accessories that they're making, which is a USB-C cable. I can't remember that. I think it was Hyperkin maybe was the developer that made that, among some other things. And so we know now for sure that it's going to be USB-C based, which, if rumors are to be believed, it's, I mean, well, from everything I understand of USB-C, because I don't actually have a device with it, it's much faster charging and has potentially additional functionality.
Yeah, so I actually haven't heard about this. So just to make sure I have you right, is it USB-C like for charging, or is it just going to have a port on it like for everything, so you can plug like devices into it?
Well, it looks like, I mean, I don't know about whether or not you'll be able to plug devices into it, because there's nothing been confirmed or stated about that. I haven't even heard rumors, just speculation. But it's definitely going to be for charging, and it looks like also for output to the TV. I mean, at least as far as when it's in the dock, it uses USB-C.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about it. I will say that I have a Nexus 6P phone, which actually does have a USB-C. I would say it's kind of a split thing, because like for me, my phone has a USB-C charger. So I have a couple of chargers that are USB-C to A, which is just the type you plug into your computer. So like I keep those like in my car from my car charger, or just when I need to plug my phone into my computer for whatever reason. So I keep those around, but there's also C to C cables, which are where you get those benefits. Like the charger that came with my phone is C to C, and then you plug that second side into a wall charger. You do get faster charging. I want to say that the data transfer is faster to a computer. I'm not 100% sure about that. I don't know if it supports that quick charge standard that makes it charge faster, but I mean, USB-C is definitely going to be the standard eventually. I think not a bad example, but like the new MacBook Pro. On the other hand, like my phone, you have a cable, you can charge it, you're good. But the new MacBook Pro has USB-C, and it's just, you have to have USB-C devices to plug into it. So you have to buy a dock accessory so you can plug HDMI and USB-A and everything else that you have into it. So I think as long as the dock has the standard ports for everything, that would be good. I'd be happy to have it use USB-C, since that's kind of the coming standard, as long as it's not inconvenient for the player to have to buy a bunch of adapters or USB-C flash drives and whatnot.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to talk about just briefly here is what we've seen of the controllers. I mean, obviously there's the ones we know for sure are happening. We know that there's the 2 Joy-Cons, which can be used either attached to the Switch on a docked controller, or as 2 separate things, and that's just for single player, and then for multiplayer you can turn it sideways and use it. And then of course there's also the Pro controller that we've seen in the trailer as well. Do you have any thoughts about those in general?
Right, so I'm looking on, I needed to refresh my memory on what it looks like. So it looks like there's 2 pieces here, right? So we have the ABXY, and it looks like a plus and minus button that I guess is kind of like a start and select type of deal. D-pad buttons that are separate, and 2 control sticks. I would have to say that I think it'll be neat to see. I think that this will give a lot of different options for gameplay control. So like if you want to use the Switch, like in your seat or on the bus or whatever, you can dock them to the side. I think one of the other cool things, there's only one game I've played like this. It was a free PS Plus game called Sports Friends, and it was just like a simple like sports 2D game. But one of the cool things you could do in it was, if you wanted to play with 2 or 4 players and you only had 1 or 2 controllers, you could do a split controller thing. And it was just like the D-pad and the control stick for both people to move. So I like that idea, where it's kind of like, for if there's simplistic games, you can have, if you only have 1 controller, quote unquote, that came with your system, you can still play simplistic 2-player games on the couch. This Pro controller, I also like the look of that. I've always liked Nintendo's Pro controllers. I mean, I had the first classic controller on the Wii, which was a little bit uncomfortable. But I absolutely love the Pro Controller on the Wii U. I think it's great. I've never had a problem with it, so I'm happy to see this one. That'll probably be my preferred way to play. Speaking something we talked about earlier, just to mention with the gamepad too, I'm happy about that because I don't like when I feel like games like force me to use the gamepad. I like playing with the Pro Controller if I can. Now, if a game is built around it, like Mario Maker, that's different. But overall, I think this is good, and I think that from what we're seeing here, this will hopefully to help alleviate a little bit of the problem that I think the Wii U had with local multiplayer, and that was like the controller thing. Because you got the gamepad when you got the system. Then, if you wanted to play half of Nintendo Land's games, you had to have Wii's remotes with Wii Motion Plus, and then you had to pay all that money for the Pro Controller, and then you had the GameCube adapter and all that. So, I think it'll be a little bit nicer just for the average person to know. I can go out and get another Pro Controller for my Switch, and it will just work with games, that type of thing. So overall, I like the Pro Controller. I imagine that'll probably be my preferred way to play, but I'm excited for the options that the dock controller, or whatever you want to call it, will give.
Yeah, there's definitely a whole lot of different options, and that's one of the things that excites me about it is just, that not tied to only one way to play. I mean, from like one of the things they showed in the trailer was the guy playing Skyrim on a plane, and he had the two Joy-Cons, the detachable controllers in his hands, and reminded me very reminiscent of a Wii remote nunchuck, which I mean I always liked that control scheme, especially for games like the Metroid Prime games where it just works beautifully, or for Skyward Sword, which I know some people absolutely hate the controls in that game, but I'm not one of them. And I just think that it definitely opens up possibilities from that standpoint. And then, of course, the Pro Controller looks great. I think most likely I'll definitely get a Pro Controller, and whether or not I use it a lot will depend in large part on how well it works, either holding the Joy-Cons separately or putting them on that little docked controller that they have.
Right, because I'm sure with playing with the gamepad, that at times it can get not heavy, but just it feels a little bit much. Whereas the Pro Controller is like the same buttons in a slightly lighter and smaller package. And the other thing here, like I said, I googled an image of the controller here just so I refresh my memory. But I'm seeing this image here that has some concept idea of like being able to swap out the buttons on the side of the system, which I absolutely love. Like they have here, like if you're playing Smash, they might sell an attachment that's like a GameCube controller, or if you're playing Resident Evil 4, it's like a little gun. And there's also a picture of a supposed Wario or a hopeful WarioWare game, which would be just absolutely phenomenal. Side note, I absolutely love WarioWare. I'm so ready for a new game. This system could be so perfect for it, like we're talking about. If they could even sell the game and have it have like two unique controllers for the Switch and take advantage of the touch screen, I would buy that the second it came out. Sorry, just a side note, but I think that's really cool. I didn't even think about the idea of like, not even really third party, but just games that have additional controllers inside of them. That could be the next Rumble Pack, when games were sold with that, and that was revolutionary. That could be this, a game that, or like even like WarioWare Twisted or Yoshi Topsy Turvy on Game Boy Advance, where they came with those packs that had the gyro sensor in it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a really cool idea, and that I didn't think about till I saw this picture.
Yeah, those definitely those different potential ideas for different types of Joy-Cons I think could be really neat. I mean, personally, I'm not going to get my hopes up too much about seeing that, but we'll kind of get more into that here in a little bit. So before we move on to the next part and start talking about all the things we actually want to see at the event and what we expect to see, do you have any final thoughts with this?
Final thoughts. I think I've said most of what I wanted to say. I mean, rumor wise, I don't think there's anything that I have on my mind that we didn't talk about. I like to not put a whole lot of stock in rumors. I mean, you see stuff all the time, headlines and stuff on Google now on your phone that's just like, this might be no one really knows. I don't want to get all up in arms about, I kind of just did, I guess, talking about WarioWare, but I don't want to get all, in a tizzy about different things that may or may not be. I'm glad it's close because I'm ready to know more about it and know the price and everything. So I think that wraps up that section for me.
All right, well, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and feel free to subscribe to the channel. Ben and I are going to be coming back here with another video, and there we are going to talk about what we actually expect to see at the Switch event on January 12th and what we might hope to see that may or may not be there. So please come back for that, and we'll talk to you next time. Okay.
Cool.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Cool. I will. Let me give me 1 second. I'm just going to clean that audio up right now and get that saved.
That's a good idea.
So I can start anew. I'm going to real quick. I'm going to get a. Okay, I'm going to do the noise reduction here. And then, whoops. And when I do noise reduction on Audacity and I do it on like a second. You ever do that? Like I get the noise profile and I leave it selected and then I click remove noise and it removes 5 seconds of noise. It's not what I was trying to do. Okay, I will wait for this to go and then I'll let you know when I'm ready.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I got this mic. It was like last spring. I was starting to, we started doing at the site, like we got a bonus if we did a video, like a brief like screencast to explain our article or like show what we were doing, talking about. And I was using that old PS3 headset that I used to use when we did the podcast. And I put my first video in and I sent it in, and a video editor guy who is British and can be pretty curt said, this audio sounds like garbage. So he said, you need to get a USB mic. So I fumbled around with using apps on my phone to like record I talked into my phone to record the audio as I, recorded the video, and it was just a mess. So I just got this so I could use it for the site. I haven't used it in a while, but it's a really great mic. I know a lot of YouTubers use it.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I think from Planet Destiny is one of the podcasts where they've advertised that one quite a bit. Okay. And I've now been using, I can't remember when I got my mechanical keyboard, but I've had it for quite a while now, and I love this thing so much. I don't use it as much for gaming, mostly just because I haven't played a whole lot of games where mouse and keyboard work the best, or at least some of the games I've been playing more lately are better played with a controller. But I definitely love typing on it, and when I use it in games, I enjoy it.
Did you tell me what keyboard you got?
I got the I think it's Logitech G710.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Logitech. I'm trying to remember if it's Logitech.
Yeah, I absolutely love my blue switches. I'm still using the one that I got a couple years ago. I got last, I want to say it was for Father's Day this past year. I got my dad one for Christmas. It was a Razer. I think it was the old model, the Black Widow Stealth, was on sale for a really good price. So I got that for him. It's one of those things. Like I told you before you got one. It's like you don't know how good it is until you get it. But I love this thing. I'll use this until it doesn't work, and as soon as it stops working, I'll get another one, probably a full size one next time. But
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to export this audio.
Yeah, I'm doing that too right now.
I'll get that right over to you. Okay, exporting now. About a minute and a half and we'll be good.
Yeah, no problem. It's funny, I don't realize how much faster my computer is until I switch over to my laptop, and then realize how slow that one is compared to my desktop.
That's the one you built recently for games, right?
Yeah, back in January. Yeah, about a year ago. Not quite a year ago, but
yeah, one of my friends So I'm fixing my pop filter here. One of my friends had an old MacBook, like not even a Pro, just a regular MacBook. She actually ended up giving to me because she didn't need it anymore, and she had a MacBook Air. I wanted to try to get one for cheap just for the site because I wanted to expand my article range and be able to cover a platform. But it was a 2010 MacBook. It had 2 gigabytes of RAM in it and a regular hard drive. So I spent about $100 and I put a solid state drive in it and 8 gigabytes of RAM. And that thing runs like it's brand new. I mean, it's like it boots up in like 5 seconds. I mean, it's fantastic. It's amazing what that'll do. I mean, SSDs are just such a phenomenal upgrade.
They really are. Yeah, this desktop that I have has 1 terabyte solid state and 4 terabyte secondary drive. That's just regular drive.
Nice.
And 32 gigs of RAM, mostly because it was like a $10 difference between 32 and 16.
Oh, sure.
The processor isn't the best. It's an i5, and it's like I think 3.8 gigahertz. And then the see what else? The I have a GTX 980.
Okay.
But it's most of the time, I mean, with the exception of a couple of newer games, it runs everything at basically max settings for 1080p. And eventually I'll probably upgrade to like a GTX 1080 or something. But I don't really need to right now. Even very demanding games like Watch Dogs, I'm running really, really well. If I turn down some of the settings, I can run game, anywhere from 60 to like 200 frames per second.
Holy crap.
But when it does that, I think it's just like certain spots where it will do that because Uplay has a frame rate monitor that it keeps up in the top corner if you keep it on. And sometimes it would, be 200 frames per second. And of course I can't tell because my refresh rate on my monitor is only 60 hertz, but
I don't even know if your eyes could pick up at 200. Yeah. That's nuts.
I honestly have no idea, but I mean, like I said, my monitor is only at 60 hertz, so the best I could actually tell is 60 frames per second because my monitor's refresh rate's too slow for anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I'll send it to you afterward. I just threw it in my Google Drive. It's still uploading, no so yeah.
Most likely, I'll actually be able to get all the audio off of the Hangouts because usually it's only a problem if not on a hardwired connection. I found, especially with having a hardwired connection and everything, that I haven't really had connection issues, and so the audio's been really good. Just taking off of that, and then I can, of course, actually add it to video and whatnot.
Right, because I remember that being a problem where it would get cut out, and then we would have like minutes that were lost and all out of sync. That's just annoying. Yeah, it's always good to have a backup.
Definitely. Okay, well, whenever you're ready, we can go ahead and get started with part two.
Okay, cool. I'm ready to go when you are. So we're just gonna do like what we'd like to see, what we think here.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, what we expect to see at the event, and then what we'd like to see.
Sure.
Probably even what we think we will not see at the event.
Okay, that works. Okay, I'm ready when you are. If you want to give the countdown for recording here.
All right, starting recording in 3, 2, 1. Hailing from the great cold state of Alaska, I am the Frozen Gamer, and we are back now, myself and Ben Stegner of MakeUseOf, to talk about the Nintendo Switch and talk about what it is that we expect to see at the January 12th event, what we expect to not see at the 12th event, and then also to be able to say what it is that we'd like to see, whether or not we actually expect it to be there. So let's go ahead and start off with what it is that we actually expect Nintendo is going to say and or reveal at the January 12th event for the Switch. So Ben, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I would say starting off here, the first couple of things, obviously the first would be the price. So we can talk about that real quick. And then I would say the other two big things would be, I'm taking the easy ones here. The next two would probably be the release date and then major game releases and possibly when they're coming out. So I'll just hit those three quickly. I would say first for price. I want to hear what you have to say on this one. I would say probably, I don't know, maybe 300 maybe. I've heard some people throwing around 250. I think that they want to avoid making it way too expensive because people tend to not like really expensive systems at launch. We've seen that with the PS3 when it first came out, and even the 3DS when they first dropped that price right away. So I would say maybe 300-ish. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on if they'll do like different versions or what we'll see in storage sizes. I'm hoping that it won't be a huge problem like it was with the Wii U. Obviously 32 gigabytes is paltry for games now. So that would be first. Release date, I'm thinking probably spring. I'd say maybe March or early April. And then big game releases, probably too many to count there, or too hard to guess. But I would say obviously Mario, and hopefully Breath of the Wild will be a release title, as we've been waiting for years at this point. I'll hand it back to you, and then we can go back to that one.
Well, as far as price goes, I mean, there's been some different rumors and some leaks from like Toys R Us Canada and EB Games over in the UK, or no, EB Games. I think, I can't remember. I'm mixing up all my different ones, but there was a couple of different ones. One was Toys R Us Canada, and I think another one was a retailer over in the UK. And based on the prices that they had at the time, which was probably about a month or so ago, it was supposed to be about $250 for the standard version. And while in some ways I would like to see them do $250, I mean, I think that would be really nice as a consumer. I also think that $300 or $299.99 is a more realistic price point, especially because the fact that gives them some room to go down if they need to. I mean, hopefully they won't need to. I honestly really believe that, especially with the way things have been marketed and the fact that they're really getting this messaging out very clear, that people are going to buy it at that 300 price point. As far as release date, I would definitely, I mean, obviously we're going to see that in March. I mean, we already know what's coming in March. I'm just going to say that it's going to be on, I think it was Friday the 17th. Let me look. Let's see what that was. Yeah, Friday, March 17th. I think that that's a pretty realistic spot there. And personally, that would be perfect because it kind of coincides with something else important that I have a reason to go to Anchorage for. So I'm thinking March 17th is going to be the release date. They're definitely going to say what it is. I mean, they can't not say what the price and the release date are. They have to say those things. Beyond that, they're definitely going to give us major games like you were saying. Based on a lot of the rumors and speculation, which seem to be from reputable sources, it sounds like we're probably going to get Zelda at launch, which would be perfect because obviously we've all been waiting years to play that game, especially those of us didn't get to go to E3 and play it on Wii U. And so, I think that would be an absolutely perfect game to launch with. There's rumor that Mario is also coming at launch, which, although I think it would be beneficial from the standpoint of getting another big hitter out there that'll definitely appeal to a lot of people and will undoubtedly get more buyers because of that on day one. Part of me hopes that it's not going to be a launch title, only because of the fact that it would be too difficult to divide my attention between those two games.
Sure, and I think that we know, I mean, you and me both, and probably every other person that is interested in Zelda, I mean, it's going to be absolutely huge. Everyone's excited for that game. I mean, it looks to be fantastic. I'm sure you've talked about it before, and so that to me is enough. I don't think a system should ride on one game for too long, but I think in this case that would be enough for a lot of people to be, I want to play this games, and I don't have a Wii U, or I have a Wii U. I'm a Nintendo fan, but I'm still going to upgrade because I'm a Nintendo fan. I think Breath of the Wild would be a perfect, a ticket to entry. And then, Mario game comes in summer, kind of fix that summer drought that we know is usually a problem with games. I think that would be great. I would love to see too, on a side note, just I guess we all would, just some franchises that haven't gotten love for a while to get even just like a teaser. Even if at this event it's not like there's a new Metroid coming, whatever, but if it's just like we see Samus fighting really something, so we know that, like I said, a new Metroid game. Personally, a new WarioWare game or even a new Golden Sun game, that's not going to happen. But that type of thing, where it's just like little notes on franchises that have been quiet for a long time, would be really cool. Something else too, I didn't mention this when in the price, but do you think that we'll see multiple versions? Do you think that like what will come with the standard one? That type of thing. Do you think there'll be like room for the deluxe version or a pack-in game? You think we'll see that type of thing?
Well, what I want to say is I think that Nintendo will have multiple versions. What I'm hoping, though, is that it's not as far that the difference isn't a matter of storage or anything like that, like they did with the Wii U. That the multiple versions thing will basically be like additional pack-ins, and that the system itself will be the same whether you get the cheaper version, and let's say that's at $250, or the more expensive version at $300. And that basically the only difference is that the $300 version will come with the game and or maybe even a second pack-in game, depending on what they do with the first one. And then, like maybe a Pro Controller or, at least the Joy-Con grip thing that you slide the Joy-Cons into, something like that. But I think that it would be not a good thing for Nintendo to have a difference in the amount of storage between one and the other. Unfortunately, I think they're probably going to have a difference there, but I hope for their sake that they're not going to be doing that, because I just think that that's not a good idea. Because from what we're hearing, at least, it sounds like it's probably only going to have like maybe 32 gigs to start, and then it can support micro SDs up to 128 gigs or something like that. And I don't know. I'm a little worried about that aspect, but I do think there's going to be multiple SKUs, and that it probably, unless they decide to do like a port as a pack-in game, like Splatoon, as the remaster, the upgraded remaster, whatever, or Mario Kart, then they probably will just save it for the more expensive bundle, in which case then it would probably come with Zelda or Mario, depending on, which, if either of those are actually released titles.
Yeah, a couple things there. I would say I wonder if we'll see some kind of a Wii Sports Nintendo Land type of deal. I would think maybe not this time around, because the Wii Sports was how do I use this weird remote thing, and Nintendo Land was here's this new gamepad, here's all the ways we can use it for asymmetrical multiplayer and things like that. So with the Switch, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You grab the controller and you start playing. So I don't know if we would see that kind of like tutorial, if you will, kind of like mini game collection disc. I think pack-in games are great. I mean, if we look back at the one I always think of is Super Mario World. I mean, think about that game is still phenomenal to this day, and getting that with the Super Nintendo was just great. So I would love to see some kind of pack-in game. If it was only for the more expensive one, if they have that, I would be fine with that. Assuming if it was $250, $300, I'll definitely get the premium one there, just to get the best experience possible on that. The storage thing, I hope it's not 32 gigabytes, to be honest with you. To me, that's far too low. I know that like with the Wii U, that's the one system I tend to buy games on disc instead of digital, because like on PS4, they take up space no matter what, because you have to install them even if you have a disc. But on Wii U, I never download because they're so huge, and then you have to do juggling around. With micro SD cards, I mean, I have a small an old hard drive I have lying around that I bought like an external kit for a couple bucks. So I use that for my Wii U. It's no big deal. But I wonder how big we'll see the games be in size, because 128 gigabyte card, that sounds like a lot, but I mean that's like 2 PS4 games. And I don't think anyone's going to want to have 4 cards lying around. They switch off and on like PS2, GameCube style. So hopefully there's a good solution for it. I mean, being a tablet, it probably has a slower amount of storage, like you're saying, but I hope that that's not a big hiccup, because I feel like that definitely was a problem with the Wii U. But it makes sense because it's the same thing. Every phone has that. They want to get the lowest possible price out to people, and people are willing to buy the one with the cheapest amount of storage. And if it's easy to expand the storage, no big deal. But I hope that it is.
Yeah, and definitely. I mean, one thing that they need to make sure they do is, if they do, I'm assuming they have expandable storage, which I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. I mean, obviously, it would be great if they just have, more storage from the get-go, but we really can't say one way or the other what's going to happen, because we haven't actually heard more than rumors. And but if they do have expandable storage, like, being able to do micro SD, which makes the most sense, they need to just make it a slot where you can slide it in and not have to unscrew the back of it in order to put it in, like with the new 3DS.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I had a 64 gigabyte card lying around when I got my new 3DS. So it was, unscrew it and pop that in. But yeah, I mean, having to do that and juggle a bunch of small cards is irritating.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think for me, and I mean, this is one thing we didn't really touch on, which I guess we just forgot to talk about. The fact that they're doing game cards, as opposed to doing actual discs. Definitely makes me a whole lot more interested in buying the games as hard copies, because, I mean, the thing about buying discs for me is, like, if I didn't buy a game as a disc, if I bought it digitally, it's because of the fact that it just fits better. I mean, as far as, I mean, it's easier to do, because when I buy games as physical copies, I have to wait for things to ship and that sort of thing, unless I happen to be in Anchorage or some other place where I can actually buy hard copies.
Right.
And my son just crawled into the room.
He wants to be on the mic.
Yeah. Oh. But anyway, so I definitely am planning on buying most of my games physical. But I still hope that what they do for the storage, makes sense as far as the amount of storage that it has by default. And hopefully, it would be really nice if they had like that 128 gigs to start just built into the Switch, and then you could also expand it by adding in, micro SD or whatever. But I guess we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, 128 gigs. I mean, even if games were 10 gigabytes, I mean, that's still, 10-ish games, depending on how much the system software takes up. So, I mean, that's not bad to start with. I mean, no one's going to have 10 games on launch day. So,
yeah, most likely not. But as far as some other stuff that they're going to be showing, I really believe that, I'm 100% positive, or at least 98% positive, that Skyrim is coming to the Switch. That it's, I know Bethesda hasn't actually confirmed it, but I mean, it's coming. There's no reason for them not to do it, especially with everything that Todd Howard had to say about the Switch, and the positive opinions of it and everything, and basically saying that the game that you see on the console is the same game on the handheld. And so I mean, there's no way that they're not going to have that one. That's probably the one Bethesda game that makes the most sense to put on there, because of the fact that it's not so demanding to where there's no way that the Switch can handle it. Whereas, a game like Doom, maybe not, and Prey later on, I'd say is a pretty much not going to happen unless it's running on Unreal, which I don't believe it is. And yeah, so I'm going to say Skyrim is a definite thing they're going to officially reveal at the January 12th event or right after, and that they're going to confirm that it's coming to the system and that it's coming day one.
Yeah, I think that would be a fair assessment. And I think with Skyrim too, another good point in favor of what you're saying is that Skyrim's kind of like exploration, kind of like, you can put 20 minutes in on the bus, to work on the quest you're on or whatever, which makes it a better fit than, Dishonored or something like that. So I think that's a fair assessment there too. Do you think that, I wonder if there'll be any focus on any sort of like indies or anything like that? I mean, maybe not at the event, like third parties or indies at all. I mean, Nintendo's been pretty indie friendly. Most major indie games that get a lot of press and things like that come out on the eShop, I find. But do you think that'll be a focus at all? I know with the PS4, for instance, Sony was very open about their plans to work with independent developers and feature them on PS4 and stuff like that.
Well, I think that if they decide to show any indies, it's basically just going to be a sizzle reel of games that are coming. I would say that there's the possibility they could show off that game. I think it's called Seasons of Heaven, if I remember correctly. That's going to at least be a Switch exclusive initially. It's a timed exclusive. And that one, I mean, looks gorgeous. I mean, the footage that we've seen is just running on a PC, so we don't know exactly how it'll look on the Switch comparatively, but even still, I think that one will probably be shown at least to some degree. I would not be surprised at all if Image and Form shows off whatever their new game is they've been working on for the Switch, and probably confirms that at least SteamWorld Heist, if not also SteamWorld Dig, will be coming to the Switch.
Right, and I wonder too if I've been thinking this kind of about Skyrim. I wonder if that, when this is not really on topic, I guess, but I wonder if that will be a draw for people, or how people will react to that. Let's say right now that people just treat it as like a tech demo, but then they announced that Skyrim will be coming. I wonder if that will be a big draw for people. I haven't played Skyrim myself personally, but I wonder if, people that didn't. I wonder what the market is for people that didn't play it on PS3 or Xbox 360, didn't have it on PC for the mods and the better support and running and things like that, and people that haven't played it in the remastered version on PS4 and Xbox One. I wonder what the market will be there. I mean, maybe people that have played it will enjoy being able to play it portably. I wonder if that'll be a big draw or not. Like I said, personally, I'd like to see a little bit more of a forward-ish focus on, like, here's what indie games will be coming, from these studios, even if it's just teasers, more than, games that are 4 or 5 years old that were even on the eShop or have been on PSN or Xbox Live for years. To me, those don't pull a lot of weight because they're not really new and exciting, unless you haven't played them yet somehow.
I mean, what I meant more was, I mean, I know for a fact that Image and Form is developing a game for the Switch, because they've already said they've had a dev kit since, I think, early last year is what they said. And so we know that they're developing a new game for the Switch, and I'm pretty sure that they also at least said that they're working on another SteamWorld game. And so pretty much I was thinking more along the lines of, they're going to show off their new game, and then they're going to say, oh, and also if you don't already own these games, SteamWorld Heist and SteamWorld Dig are also going to be available day one, to where you could buy them. And personally, that would be appealing to me, because I love SteamWorld Dig. I mean, I own it on every platform I can get it on so far. And I played through it, I think, 3 times, and started playing through it multiple times on additional platforms. And SteamWorld Heist I haven't played yet, but I definitely want to. It's just, I have such a huge backlog that it hasn't been one I bought yet. And so I think really it'll be just more along the lines of, if those ones come to the Switch, it's just going to be basically, hey, this doesn't really take any effort to port over. And from what Image and Form were saying, it sounds like the Switch is a lot easier to develop for, so that it probably would be really easy for them to port those games over.
Okay, I misunderstood you. That does make sense. So piggybacking off that, it brought another topic to my mind. This is kind of like a wish for / I think they will show, hopefully. I would like to see, and I think they hopefully will show, some new dirt. That was stupid. It's just something new on both, like kind of the account network features, and also like the eShop, specifically the virtual console. I think a lot of people will be relieved to know that if they've bought Super Metroid on Wii U, they don't have to buy it again on the Switch, that type of thing. and I'd like to see, I mean, I don't think the network stuff on the Wii U is atrocious. I mean, there's no friend codes. Thankfully, it's at least usernames and things like that. But I would like to see just even if it, how it links in with the new My Nintendo features or just anything like that. I think that would be cool. I like technical stuff like that. Like I'm weird, but I enjoy seeing stuff like that. So I would like to see some type of just plan on how that'll work or new features that they're bringing to the infrastructure.
Yeah, I would definitely say that I think they have to do that now. I mean, they really do. People have gotten so annoyed with having to repurchase these games over and over, and I think that it could go a long way for them to just say, if you already own these games on Wii U or 3DS, you can play them on the Switch for free. You don't have to purchase them again. If not, then they at the very least need to say, when you buy this, you own it for good. And that if you want to download it on a Wii U or a 3DS, you can do that, even though really there wouldn't be much point.
Yeah, because I think that, I mean, like nowadays, and I think it's totally fair for people to do this. Most people have the idea of, on PS4, if I buy and download, whatever Battlefield 1, it's not linked to this system. If my system takes a dive, or if I get a PS4 Pro, whatever, I can just re-download it because I own it. And I think it's frustrating. Like, it hasn't really bothered me personally. An example would be I guess Super Mario RPG. I bought that on the Wii way back when it first came out on the Wii U Virtual Console, or on the Wii, excuse me, Virtual Console. And I wanted to play it and I never did. And then it finally came out on Wii U Virtual Console, and it was like, great, now I can play it without having to go into the Wii menu, and I can use the gamepad, all that stuff. And it's like I got to pay $1.50 or whatever for it. It doesn't really bother me, I guess, because I never played it in the first place. But like you touched on, I mean, I think people are just, that's kind of annoying because it's like, especially with cross-buy on PS4, you buy it once, you have it in 2 or 3 places. I think that would be something that would really help people. I'd like to see, really on kind of related note, just with the Virtual Console. I think it's good how it is. I think it could be a lot better. There are so many games. It would just be really cool to say, not only is the Nintendo Switch the place where you can play home and portable games in the same package. Not only is it our new Nintendo system with these X exclusives like Mario and all that, but it has the definitive and best library of Virtual Console games. A good release schedule. I don't think we need every little system like the TurboGrafx 16 and things like that, but I think that there were a lot of games, just like even like NES games like Star Tropics that have a huge following that aren't necessarily like Zelda and Metroid level of popularity, but just to know that there's this huge store of games. When you get them, they're yours. They're on all your systems, and it's just a pleasure to browse through and just kind of take a walk down memory lane. I think that would be fantastic because the Virtual Console is good now, but it could be the definitive place, and I think that would even pull people away from using emulators and stuff because we saw how popular the NES Classic was just a couple months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Regarding the Virtual Console, I do think that it's not going to have an impressive launch. I mean, I do hope that they, because of the My Nintendo account system, that they actually decide to make it so that you can just, if you already own these games on 3DS or Wii U, you can just have them on the Switch. But I also do not think that they're going to have a great launch with that. However, I do believe, and obviously this is more based on rumor than anything else, but I do believe that they are going to have GameCube Virtual Console games. And that from what the rumors are suggesting, it's going to launch with Super Mario Sunshine, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and what was the third one? It's on the tip of my brain.
Metroid?
No, it was something else.
Luigi's Mansion?
Luigi's Mansion, yeah. And so I think that all 3 of those are going to come to Virtual Console day one. And it looks like, even though it hasn't been confirmed, and I imagine that I think Nintendo will show this at the Switch event, that the Switch, the Joy-Cons specifically, actually have analog triggers, that they decided to go back to that, which will make it possible to actually play especially both Super Mario Sunshine and Luigi's Mansion, which both use the analog triggers.
Okay, I hadn't heard that, so that's great. Yeah, I mean, I love the GameCube, and I mean, I think that there's just something on any system, knowing that you're not locked into only playing games on the new system. That sounds kind of weird, but what I mean is like on the Xbox One, it has backwards compatibility, so it's like I can buy my favorite Xbox 360 game and have it on this system, or they re-release whatever PS3 game on PS4, like Resident Evil 4, stuff like that, where it's released on all the systems. You have it all on one system, especially if you have limited space in your living room or whatever. So I think that would be great for people that love the GameCube, and I love the GameCube, and it's a great system. So I mean, I think that having a larger library like that will definitely help.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, if they do actually do the GameCube Virtual Console and do all three of these games at launch, I probably won't buy Melee just because I still have a GameCube with that. And as much as I love Melee, I think Smash 4 is really just the definitive Smash game. But I would definitely buy Super Mario Sunshine, and I would definitely buy Luigi's Mansion. And Super Mario Sunshine I've never actually played through. But I definitely, I played through Luigi's Mansion. I think that would be perfect as a portable game.
Yeah, I never played Luigi's Mansion either. So I mean, I would buy it and play it on there rather than break out the GameCube. Okay. All right, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm back. All right, you ready?
Okay, back in business. Yep. Okay,
All right. Unpausing. Okay. Um, let's see here. So where were we? Where I guess we are just talking about GameCube Virtual Console.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think that it would be really fantastic to have Super Mario Sunshine and Luigi's Mansion on the Switch, because I think both of those would be really great portable experiences. I do think having Melee would be excellent as well, but I think that one would be a little bit harder to do portable, only because of the fact that, for most people, they would much rather actually be able to use a GameCube controller. And unless they do GameCube Joy-Cons, like, some concept art that people have put out there, then I'd say it's not going to be as popular, except for when playing at home. Because I'm sure that they're going to have USB ports and that people are going to be able to use that GameCube adapter from Wii U. But
Yeah, I think you're probably right because, obviously we know how popular the GameCube controller is because of the whole, thing they released so that people can use the GameCube controller with Smash 4. So obviously if people are that attached to it and they're still playing Melee, if they're purists, they're probably only going to want to use the GameCube controller. But I agree with you on Smash 4. I think the only people that are really hardcore, like only play Melee, would be like people that are either they're so deep into it that they know every little nuance about it and it would be too hard to learn Smash 4, or they're like, I guess they're competitive, which would be the same thing. So I agree that Smash 4 is the best blend of deep for people that want to get into it, but easy to pick up for new players as well.
yeah, and I also think that, speaking of Smash 4, I'd say that it's guaranteed that Smash 4 is going to be ported to the Switch. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do that, especially because then they can bring back Ice Climbers, which I'd say is a guarantee if they port it over, and potentially either bring in some new characters or at the very least, bring back like Wolf. I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess they could bring back Young Link as well, because that's another character that got left out. Young Link and Pichu, but otherwise, I don't really know. I mean, I do think that if they did decide to bring back like Young Link and Pichu, they would have to do some modifications, like they did with Roy. Because I think Roy became a significantly better fighter in Smash 4 than he was in Melee.
Yeah, I never really used him in Smash 4. To be honest, I didn't try him out a ton. But yeah, I mean, I think that would be cool, almost kind of like a not a definitive edition, but that kind of like a deluxe edition. Obviously, I would imagine they would bundle in all the current DLC characters. I mean, maybe not, but I would think some
Yeah,
new characters would
definitely.
be cool. I mean, that would be a way to. I don't know if I would pay full price for that again, but I mean, that would be a way to bring new people in that didn't play Smash on Wii U, since that was one of its must-have games, as we know. But it would also offer something for new players too. And speaking of porting games over, I think that I think Splatoon is a good pick for that. Maybe if there is a
Yeah,
pack-in game,
absolutely.
I would be happy about that. I didn't play Splatoon on Wii U. I thought about it, but I, I just, I guess I figured I wouldn't really get into the multiplayer, so I never bothered to get it because it never really went down in price. But I would definitely try that if it was on the Switch. I don't know if I'd get like super into it, but it's one I've been interested in, and that I would definitely play through the single player.
Yeah, and I mean the single player was really good on that, and the multiplayer is really fun too. The one thing that I think would be good if they decided to bring that over to the Switch, which I mean we know Splatoon is going to be in the Switch in some form or another, whether it's a port of the original with added features or just just a new game in general. Uh, I mean the multiplayer is fun, and I think that starting from scratch early on would definitely help things out. I mean, there's still going to be players who are way better at it. But I do hope that one thing they can do is kind of fix the matchmaking a little bit so that teams can be a little bit more even as far as like actual character levels, because obviously the people who are level 40 and 50 and so on are going to be a lot more experienced than people who are level 2.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating getting put in a game where the other team is all level 40 and 50 and you're level 12, and then you get to a point where it's impossible for you to win. And not only does that become frustrating because of the fact that it's because you're losing, but also because you just don't get anywhere near as much experience if you lose.
Yeah, then you kind of get stuck at that not stuck, but then it takes you longer to get out of that low level, and then you just get sick of it anyway.
Yeah, and that's probably my biggest gripe about the multiplayer on that. But I'd say that it's definitely coming to the Switch, and I think that it's very likely going to be either an enhanced port or an actual sequel. Because I mean, by the time it comes, unless it's a launch title, it will probably basically have been. It'll have been a full 2 years since the original came out, or close to full 2 years. So
that's enough time for a sequel, I'd say.
I think so. And I mean, Splatoon is great, and I really think that there's a lot of things that they could do to make it better, and especially adding like local multiplayer would be really nice. At least local multiplayer that's actually good, as opposed to what they had in the Wii U version, which was not.
Yeah, and it's not like Splatoon is like a Final Fantasy or something where they have to come up with this massive new character plot and all this stuff. It's just kind of, it would be pretty easy to just have it be like more Splatoon but better type of thing, which would be fine, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things, and I mean, another game that I think is definitely coming is Xenoblade Chronicles X port. I kind of doubt they'll do much with it as far as like additional features. I mean, obviously it's not going to have all the same features that were in the gamepad, at least not to the same degree. I mean, since you won't have a second screen. But I think that game is definitely coming, and I mean, it would be great if they added on to the story. But I kind of doubt that they would do that if they bring over X. I think that most likely if they do anything further with the story, it's going to be in an actual sequel, which, I mean, rumor has it that Monolith Soft is actually working on a sequel, or at least another Xenoblade type game. And I'd say, adding on to that, I think that they're definitely going to be at least announcing or giving some kind of teaser that shows that there's going to be another Xenoblade game, or another game in that vein, another game from Monolith Soft. But as far as the idea of porting over Xenoblade Chronicles X, I think that what I really would like them to be able to do, and I kind of doubt they will, is make it possible to import save data from the Wii U version. Because if they did that, that would make my day, because that would be the one and only reason I would buy it. Because I love the game, but I do not want to redo everything, because I have 125 hours or more in the Wii U version, and there's still a lot of stuff I could do, and I would like to get into it, but I just don't think that I would really want to have to start over from scratch with everything I had to, go through. I'd much rather just continue on from where I was. And I think also that if they do bring it over, it's definitely going to run better than on the Wii U. So hopefully that'll take care of some of the problems with the pop-in, which was probably one of the biggest complaints about the Wii U version. But yeah. And one other thing that I want to point out before I give you another turn here that I think we're going to see with the Switch is we're going to find out what exactly it is that what's the special feature that we just don't know about yet, because there's from what especially the leakers that have gotten other things right have been saying, there's something else to the Switch that they haven't told us yet, and something that they basically want to keep us surprised. So I'm sure that they're going to show what that is. I don't know what that's actually going to be, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to edit that out. So yeah, they're definitely going to show what else there is that's special about the Switch beyond what we already know.
I do wonder that. I can't think. I mean, I'm not much of a marketer, creative, whatever you want to say, but I'm trying to think of what that could be conceivably. Some kind of link between systems. No pun intended. Like some kind of easy way to like tap two systems together, and you're playing multiplayer, or some kind of something on the hardware. Or I can't think of anything that would be like amazingly mind blowing. I'm not saying they're not going to. I'm just saying, like, from my own thought bank,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything super cool. But if there was a surprise, that would be neat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there because I really don't have any ideas of what they could possibly do. I mean, I've heard developers say that there's something else to the Switch that Nintendo hasn't shown us yet that's really, I can't remember if they've said, that's revolutionary or if that it's just a really cool surprise that no one sees coming. And I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping it's not just the VR thing because, I mean, Nintendo did file that patent for having basically a VR headset where you just slide in the tablet, and then it would be capable of VR. And I think that, well, I do believe that Nintendo is going to confirm that they are going to have the ability to do VR in the future. I don't think that's going to be this special feature. I think there has to be something more exciting than that. And speaking of VR, I have to say that the idea of VR to me it's not really something I've ever been excited about. I mean, like, in general, I can't really see a whole lot of reason why I would do VR, but I will say that if the Switch has this as basically a cheap option to try it out, to where all you have to do is purchase the headset and then slide in the Switch and the headset would be cheap, I'd be willing to do that. And, with the detachable Joy-Cons, it makes sense because then you already have the at least rumored motion controllers, and I firmly believe that the Joy-Cons are going to have motion controls and infrared. But yeah.
Yeah, with the VR, that's kind of a couple things here. So I think that with the VR, that's a good point that if the headset isn't super expensive, that could be a good way to kind of dip your toe into budget VR. For myself, the only VR I've really done is like Google Cardboard with a $20 headset, which to be honest wasn't that great because my phone has a metal body. And there's a little ring on the side of the headset that you use to like interact with, like pull a button basically, and it doesn't work with my phone. So I had to put my old phone in there, which wasn't as high resolution on the screen, and so it didn't look quite as good in the headset. So I wasn't blown away by that. And the other thing too is like even the PSVR headset at the site that I write for, there's a guy there that has all three of the big current headsets, so the PSVR, as well as the Vive and the Oculus Rift. And he says that in his review that he liked the PSVR, but it wasn't it wasn't as comfortable or technically impressive or all things like that. So I don't think that this VR that we would see with the Switch would be anything that would be like this amazing experience that you have to see to believe, and it's the new way to do VR. But if it was better than Google Cardboard, but even not quite as good as like what PlayStation has, I think it would be interesting. And if you already had the Switch, $20, $30 for a headset wouldn't be a huge deal. Because I think for a lot of people, even with PSVR, you have to have the headset, and then you have to have the PlayStation camera, and you have to have the Move controllers, and it works better on a PS4 Pro, which looks better in 4K. And then before you know it, you're looking at $2,500, and for that price, you could get an Oculus Rift and a nice PC. So
Yeah,
I think because cost is such a barrier for people even trying VR that are interested, that would be not the best way to do VR, but maybe the best way to have people dip their toe into it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the one thing that would probably sell me on VR, at least to some degree, is that they did Metroid Prime in VR. I mean, they don't even have to upgrade the graphics. They could just have it basically just be ports of the Wii versions of the Metroid Prime games, but playable in VR, and that would be amazing. That is one type of game that I think would be a ton of fun to play, but that's really about it, because apart from that, I just really can't think of any experiences that would be that great. I mean, I guess they could do like Splatoon in VR, and that could be pretty fun, but even that would be difficult in some areas, because like when you dive down into the ink, I mean, I don't think that would work as well for VR.
It doesn't make sense.
So, but yeah, and some other things that I think we'll see at the show. I do think that we're not going to see anything about the battery life. They're not going to say jack about that, because I'm sure it's not something to brag about.
Yeah.
And so pretty much they won't say anything about it. We'll just have to wait to get an official report, basically from like Digital Foundry testing it out or something like that. And then what was I going to say? I do think we'll get some confirmation of more third-party games. Not just, I mean, Skyrim, obviously, as I already said, but I think we'll also probably get confirmation of some EA titles, like some of the sports games. I mean, they showed off the basketball game in the trailer, and so I think we'll get a confirmation about that, and probably like FIFA.
Yeah, that's fair.
But beyond that, I do think the Dark Souls is going to be confirmed as coming to the Switch. All three of them. I think they're going to port all three over, just based on the rumors. That basically Dark Souls, they got Dark Souls 3 running at a level they're happy with, and that they were considering porting all the games over. I think it's just going to happen. I think that it sounds like it's fairly simple for them to do ports over to the Switch compared to when it was with the Wii U, or well, just in general, it's fairly simple, and so it's a win-win situation for them, really.
Yeah, I hope that I think the more games, the better. The day of, even if it's just this game is coming, not necessarily when. I think that'll be solid for sure. Kind of quells people's thoughts. I wonder if we'll get. Since we're assuming a March release date, I wonder if we'll get anything that's join us in February for X. Like we're gonna push the whatever, like a Nintendo. What do they used to a Nintendo Direct demo or something like that?
I don't think we will, but that's only because of the fact that they're actually doing a Treehouse live presentation on the 13th of this month. So the day after they actually do the initial event presentation, that they're going to be doing a Treehouse presentation. So I think that most likely that'll just be all we get until it launches.
Okay, I didn't know that, but that makes sense.
I do think that we'll probably get some confirmation from NVIDIA of what the actual specs are of the Switch release, what type of chip they're using. But it won't be at the event. It'll be like an after thing, kind of like how, we saw the reveal trailer for the Switch, and then shortly after that, NVIDIA revealed that they're the ones working on it.
Yeah, like a press release or something.
Mm-hmm. Beyond that, I'm trying to think, is there anything else that you think will definitely be shown off at the event?
I'm trying to think. We touched on cartridges. We touched on the controller. We talked about the network and shop features. I guess the only other thing I can think of is any other, this is kind of weird, anything that's on the system software, but not games or the eShop, like a Miiverse type of thing.
Yeah,
we've had like the Nintendo channel on the Wii and Nintendo Video Network or whatever on the 3DS. I wonder if we'll see anything like just like a swap note type of like little app, or like some kind of thing like Miiverse that's a big platform. I assume Miiverse will be here to stay, which is fine. But just something like that, some sort of like little integration, or the new way to make Mii's on the Switch if they still have Mii's, all that stuff.
Yeah, I think Mii's are here to stay. I really don't think they're changing. It's connected with the Wii name, but at the same time, it's an easy way to create an avatar, and
right.
I think that's going to happen. That they're going to have Mii's still, and I think that related to what you were saying, basically they are going to show off some of like the UI and that sort of thing, just to kind of give us an idea of what to expect. And then furthermore, I believe they'll also confirm that mystery button on the left side of the left Joy-Con is in fact a share button, and that they're going to have the ability to stream, probably using NVIDIA's, I'm trying to remember what it's called now. It used to be called Shadow Play. Right now it's called, so I have it on here. It's GeForce Experience is just the general thing. I'm not sure what they actually call the recording and broadcasting thing, but either way, they're going to have that. I firmly believe they're going to do that. It's NVIDIA. There's no reason why they wouldn't, and it's really useful. Really works very well.
Yeah, I forgot about that button. I noticed that when I was looking at the shot there earlier, but I forgot to comment on that. That would be interesting to see what that would be, I think.
Yeah, I think the share button is the only thing that really makes any sense because I mean, you already have the plus and the minus on top, which have already been used since the Wii as basically
Yeah.
their equivalent of start and select. So I mean, those are going to be there. But yeah, I'd say that's almost definitely a share button, and all the rumors have been suggesting that's what it is anyway. So I'll say that that's definitely what it is.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We'll go with that. We'll see if we're right when it happens.
All right, so why don't we get into what we'd actually like to see, whether or not we expect to see it there.
What I would like to see. I don't know if I have a whole lot for this. Honestly, I'm just kind of I'm ready for them to tell me what it is. I guess I would say I'm harping on it. I mean, my biggest thing is it would be a new WarioWare game, new Metroid game. Just because I think, I mean, this is a separate topic, but the WarioWare games that we have gotten have been kind of like test dummies for the systems. We had touch with the touch screen and smooth moves right when the Wii came out and all that. But I think that even if they don't have the custom controller peripherals we talked about, I think this system would be a good fit for it. Other than that, if this were a year ago, or 2 years ago, I would say my traditional, a Banjo-Kazooie type game, but ukulele is already on the way, so that doesn't apply anymore. So other than that, I can't say anything. I can't think of anything right now that I hope we see. I mean, I'm glad that it's going to be, home and portable like we talked about, and I don't think there's anything that's like, if I don't see this on Thursday, I'm not going to get it. I'm failing to think of anything else. Just games that have been neglected recently would be my vote.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're going to find out what Retro's been working on. I don't think it's a Metroid game, but I do think we're gonna see what it is that Retro has been working on, which is probably, I'm guessing, is a new IP of some kind, or is taking an existing franchise and putting their spin on it like they did with Metroid and Donkey Kong.
I would be okay with that. I mean, I love their work. I would love to see, personally, a third Donkey Kong Country Returns game. I mean, obviously, I love the original trilogy, and it would be cool to have two separate trilogies, but I'd be okay with Retro working on something new, too.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do a Donkey Kong game, at least not yet, because that's what they did the last two games, and I think that that's just kind of wasting some of their talent, and not because necessarily the games were bad. I mean, from everything I've heard, they were fantastic, but between the fact that the last two games they made were 2D platformers and they haven't had a chance to kind of flex their creative muscles a little bit more, I really feel like it's going to be a new type of game, something that really shows off their skill set, what they're capable of doing, and maybe could even be a showcase for what the Switch is capable of graphically.
I would be okay with that. I mean, we got that in Metroid Prime, more or less, on the GameCube. I mean, that was an early game that still stands as one of the best, and they're a developer that I absolutely trust to try something, and I'm hoping and I'm knowing it'll be good.
Yeah, and what was I going to say? Another thing is that I would like to see. I would like to see some type of Metroid game revealed. I mean, like I said, even though I don't think Retro is going to be the one developing it, I do think there's going to be at least a teaser or an announcement that one is being worked on, just because of the fact that that's something that fans have been clamoring for a long time. And after the sour taste that Other M left in a lot of people's mouths, it's definitely time for them to reveal another Metroid. And I think it would be really awesome if they decided to go the same route they did when Prime first came out and do both a 2D and a 3D Metroid.
Like with Fusion.
Of course, I'd be happy no matter what, but I think that they need to have a 3D Metroid, whether it's in first person or third person, which I think third person would be really nice just because it'd be something different, but at the same time could show off what the system could do. Whereas a 2D Metroid, as much as those games are fantastic, and I mean, I just replayed Super Metroid and finished that a couple days ago. as fantastic as they are, I also think that they need something that's going to show off what the Switch can do, and a 2D Metroid is just not going to do that.
Yeah, I like the split idea. I like Metroid Fusion. I mean, Prime I like more, but I agree with you. I mean, I think that too. I see these comments all the time on reviews I've written for Nintendo Life and other things like that, where it's like I'm glad I have my powerful Wii U or my whatever my PS4 so I can play pixelated games. I mean, personally, I love retro graphics, but I know a lot of people are kind of sick of the retro indie game revolution where every other game has to have 8-bit retro style graphics. So I think that you're right that a 2D Metroid, a lot of people would see that as baiting nostalgia and things like that and kind of write it off.
Yeah, I think people are kind of past that point to a degree. I mean, like I said, those 2D Metroids are amazing. I mean, especially like Super Metroid. The bit I played of Metroid 2, I really enjoyed, even though it was a pain to navigate because it's in black and white, which I do want to play that remake. And
it's absolutely fun.
I love Zero Mission. Month. Zero Mission was extremely good.
For sure.
And Fusion, I have mixed feelings about, but I definitely would say that that it would be, as much as I love 2D Metroid games, and I really think it would be nice for them to do a new one, especially one that can kind of learn from not just later Metroid games, but also from other Metroidvania type games like Guacamelee, for example. Mm-hmm. As far as the controls and the tightness of of the physics and everything else. But anyway, so I do think we'll see something about a Metroid. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be any actual gameplay footage. I think unless Retro's the one doing it, I think that we're not going to see any gameplay footage, and at best we'll get like a short teaser that's all CG. But of course, I would love to be surprised. And in reality, if it was my dream would be that they would actually show off gameplay footage from a new Metroid game, and that they'd have both a 3D and a 2D, and that way you can satisfy both sets of fans.
That would be really cool, but it's funny to think of the things you can dream up that would be so cool, but just they're not realistic. If they prove us wrong, I'd be happy, but I think I'd settle for one new Metroid game that's not made by Team Ninja.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is we're also right now talking about what we want to see. So
sure.
I would say, well, that's what I want to see. I want to see a new 3D Metroid and a new 2D Metroid, both. And I don't care if the 3D Metroid is first person or third person. I think third person would be great just because it would be something new and different for the Metroid franchise, and because like the Metroid minigame on Nintendo Land controlled fantastically. But I would be happy no matter which one of those I got. And I think that if they do a 2D Metroid, it has to be in addition to a 3D Metroid.
I think that's fair. I think 3D would take priority here.
Yeah. But then what I also really want to see, and I think there's at least a decent possibility, is confirmation from Square Enix that we're going to get that Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to come to the Switch, that Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to come to the Switch, and both of those run on Unreal Engine 4, so they could come to the Switch. And then one that's maybe less realistic, but is still possible, is Final Fantasy 15 coming to the Switch. And lastly, and I think this one's the least likely, despite the fact that it would run without a problem, and that's that Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age would come to the Switch. And once again, these are more or less things that I don't think are actually going to happen necessarily, especially not the last two. But I want them to happen, and it's something that I would love to see at that event.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any super far-reaching goals like that. I guess the only thing I could very wildly say is, and this is so stupid, is a good Star Fox game. After Star Fox Zero, I've paid my respects to the coffin. I mean, I just can't. That's a whole other topic. But I'd love to get Star Fox 64 2, which is what I've been waiting for, and I did not get with Star Fox 0. So that's another super far-reaching goal. But
yeah, unfortunately, that one is. I'm not even sure they're going to do another Star Fox game for a long time.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Or if they do, it's not going to be a Miyamoto developed one, because basically every time he's just either done a remake or a reboot. I mean, because 64 was a remake of the original, and then, I mean, yeah, there was the 3DS one, which wasn't done by Miyamoto, but that was just a remake of Star Fox 64.
Sure.
And it was fantastic. And then Star Fox Zero, which is a remake of Star Fox in general, and unfortunately just did not do well, which sucks. I mean, I never ended up playing it because of all the reviews I heard, and it's one of those that I'll probably play somewhere down the line, but I don't know. The idea of the controls don't appeal to me as much.
Yeah, I won't get into it now. The controls were a problem. They're as bad as you heard, but there's a whole other set of problems with it on a Star Fox game level I won't get into, but it was disappointing. I wouldn't, but that's not one that they should put on Switch. Even if they fix the controls, it still wouldn't be worth playing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really want to see on the Switch, really want them to reveal, that probably won't. I would love to see a new Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be a perfect fit for the Switch, because of the fact that it is both a portable and a home console, and being able to do it both ways. I mean, I love Animal Crossing New Leaf. I mean, I haven't played it in quite a while, but when I first got it, I probably played for 4 months, every day pretty much. And I was really, really enjoying myself with it. And I think that as gorgeous as that one was, that a true HD Animal Crossing that you can also play on your TV would be amazing.
Yeah, I have fond memories of the original Animal Crossing, even though Wild World on DS was probably the one I played the most. City Folk didn't grab me quite as much. I played it, but not as much as either of the previous two. And I have New Leaf. I didn't get too into it because I was really busy when I got it, but I agree. I love Animal Crossing, and I think the Switch would be a great place to introduce new things with it, because that's a game that needs a few changes when a new game comes out, but it's still, the core is just so great.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else before we close out for the night. I feel like there's something that I'm just completely skipping over that should be discussed, but I guess we can just move on into, final thoughts of, what we're hoping for with all of this, just in general.
Yeah, so, okay, yeah, I guess if I could sum up my thoughts on the Switch and everything I kind of hope to see in a sentence or two, I would say that I hope that as a Nintendo fan and a one that's recently kind of come back to them, like I talked about with getting the Wii U and 3DS in the last 2 years after not 3DS, sorry, after not playing them when they first came out, I would say I'm hoping that obviously that it does well. I'm hoping that people take it seriously, understand that it's not going to compete with the PS4 and Xbox One, and it shouldn't. I hope that we get just good, solid games. I keep thinking of the GameCube in my mind after both the Wii and the Wii U kind of, I don't want to say relied on a gimmick, but that, the Wii was a system seller because of the motion controls and Wii Sports and all that. And the Wii U tried to fit the gamepad into as much as it could. I still go back and play games like, the Donkey Kong Country games and, Super Mario World and anything like that, Zelda, obviously. So a system where it's just solid entries in awesome franchises that look better than ever and that can be taken on the go, I'd be totally cool with that. It doesn't have to be the most powerful system. It doesn't have to have the most phenomenal online capabilities, but updates in those areas would be nice. So that's what I'm really hoping for, just for classic franchises revived, good solid games all around, and just, a system that people love and enjoy. And that's what Nintendo's all about to me. So that would be my summary.
All right. Well, I guess for my final thoughts, I just basically want to say that I'm really excited about this event coming up. I'm hoping that my schedule will work out to where I can actually be home to watch the event, and I plan to basically do a reaction video for everything that's announced, because I'm really expecting that there's going to be some good reactions in there. And I just want Nintendo to surprise me, because I mean, as much as I've liked hearing all these cool rumors, at the same time, I also feel a little fatigued with that, because I've heard so many rumors and right now just don't know what's true and what's not. And I want to know, what exactly Nintendo's doing. I want to know about third-party support. I want to get confirmation of, how many of these features that people have been talking about are actually true, because I don't want my hopes to get too high and be disappointed. I know I'm going to love the system no matter what. I mean, the fact that it's a Nintendo system, the fact that it's a console handheld hybrid is amazing already, and that in and of itself has sold me on the system. The fact that I know that Breath of the Wild is coming, and everything I've heard about that game from people who have played it just makes me extremely excited about it. And knowing that there's a 3D Mario coming, even if it isn't a launch title, that looks gorgeous, and so many other possibilities. But I just want the event to happen already. And I want to be home to watch it and be able to, really dissect everything that they've gone over and just be able to pick it up on day one. So
yeah, it's at what, 8 Pacific time, right on the 12th Thursday there. So that'll be 11 for me. So assuming it'll be able to be streamed online, which I would think would be the only way. It's not going to be on TV, obviously. I think I'll be up for that. So yeah, it'll be cool. I'm taking this as an opportunity to, what stuff like this, talk about it, watch the reveal event, get it right away, and be a first buyer, because it's time to do that after I missed the last generation. So yeah, I'm ready for it too. I hope that the things we're looking for are fulfilled. I hope that we're surprised in some ways, like we talked about, and that there'll be plenty to discuss next week.
All right, so that's been our presentation here, our discussion about what we expect to see with the Switch. And if you guys would like to get in touch with myself or with Ben, what's the best way for people to reach you?
Twitter's fine, or email. My Twitter account is at Stegnersaurus, STEGNERSAURUS, or that same address at gmail.com. Yeah, I'm like I said, I write for MakeUseOf, so I'm pretty active on Twitter, just responding to people and things like that. So if you want to talk about anything we heard here or things like that, I'm always available. So send me a tweet. I love it.
All right. And of course, you can like the video. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and leave comments, subscribe to my channel, and you can reach me on Twitter at TheFrozenGamer1987. And actually, now that I think about it, it's not The Frozen Gamer 1987. It's just Frozen Gamer 1987. So please come back for future videos, and hopefully I'll have an actual reaction video for the January 12th presentation. But either way, there'll definitely be a discussion after the presentation. So look forward to that, and I'll talk to you all later. All right. Cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop.